Now let's look at cut, copy and paste. Again, in this section I'll be demonstrating using clips, but cut, copy and paste applies to other data types such as notes and envelopes. Most of those work in a very similar way, and if there are any differences later, we'll look at them then. Cut, copy and paste can be a very powerful function within Sonar, but because of that can be quite complicated once getting beyond the straightforward copy and paste. I hope to demystify some of the advanced options in this section. Selecting Cut from the Edit menu or pressing Ctrl+X will remove whatever is selected from the view and is similar to pressing Delete, except a copy of the material is now on a clipboard and available to be pasted elsewhere. Selecting Copy or pressing Ctrl+C also places the material on a clipboard, but it doesn't remove the original. When copying or cutting data, we can change what is cut or copied using the Edit Copy Special or Edit Cut Special commands found under the main Edit menu, or by right-clicking on a selected data and selecting it from the Context Edit menu. They are very similar in their options, but as with regular cut and copy, Cut Special removes data to the clipboard, whereas Copy does as its name suggests and copies data to the clipboard, leaving the original in place. To be able to select the options from the menu, we need to have an object or data selected in the first place. Once a dialog box is open, we can select or deselect the various data types. The choices available for selection will depend on the data type selected. So I'm going to change the selection here so we've got more than one data type selected, and choose Cut from the Edit menu. The choices available for selection here will depend on the data type selected, and if an option is greyed out, that is because there is no data of that type in the selection. For example, there's no clip automation on this clip. Once these options have been set, they will effectively become the default until they are changed again. To paste data, we need to position the now time where we want the data to be pasted, and make sure the track you wish to start the paste in is the in focus one. Then press Ctrl+V or Edit Paste. That will use the current paste options. Remember, there is a difference between in focus and selected, and paste will always happen in the in focus track unless you specify otherwise in the paste special options, which we'll look at shortly. To fully explain the advanced paste options, I'm going to open a different project. When we first press alternate Ctrl and V or select Edit Paste Special, the basic Paste Special box opens, but we'll expand that to include the advanced options by clicking on the Advanced button. Toward the top left, we find the Starting at Time box, which will contain the current now time, but it can be changed to whatever we want in measure, beats and tick format. Repetitions is how many times we want the paste to happen. Destination Starting Track is the first track where a multiple track paste should start or where the single paste will happen. This will be the current in focus track. To paste more than one track at a time, you'll need to have more than one track's data on the clipboard. You can select an existing track or new from here, which will create a new track. If you select bus, it will need to be an existing bus, and only data that is compatible with the bus will be pasted. If there's no bus compatible data selected in the What to Paste options, this will be unavailable. The Paste to One Track option will only be available if you have data for more than one track on the clipboard. Choosing this will place all the data into one track rather than the separate number of tracks that it was copied from. Linked repetitions will only be available if pasting more than one repetition and serves a similar function as a link to original clips. If this is the only choice of the two checked, they aren't linked to the original clip though. Linked clips are created if these options are checked, meaning any processing on the internal data that happens on one clip will affect them all. The Align to Measures box is only available with more than one repetition, and one checked means that the repetitions will start at the next measure regardless of whether the copied data length is exactly a measure or not. So if copied data is half a measure long and this box is unchecked, when that data is pasted, the repetitions will be inserted immediately after each paste. If this is checked, the data is padded out to the next measure where the next paste then happens. It's probably easier to see what I mean. I'll copy 1.5 bars of this track, pressing Ctrl+C, then move the now time, and press alternate Ctrl+V again. If I increase the repetitions to 3, the box becomes available for selection. I now leave that unchecked, and each pasted copy of the data is butted up against the previous one. I'll undo that, press Ctrl Alternate V again, and this time check the Align to Measures box. Now click on OK, and you'll see that the clips have been padded out to fit to the start of the measure. Let's undo that again and get back to the dialog box. The interval box will also only be available if more than one repetition is specified and the align to measures is unchecked. But the name interval is a little misleading, as it isn't an interval of time between the end of one paste and the start of another as you may expect. It's actually the interval between each paste start time, and by default that is the length of the copied data. That's why without the align to measures box checked, the data butts up against the last copy. We can use this to our advantage though and specify our own interval, and in addition still align to measures if we wish. Let's look at where this might be useful. Here is a drum beat for a project which has a 4-bar verse followed by a 4-bar chorus. The verse is made up of a 3-bar pattern followed by a pickup fill. The pickup fills are already in place, and I want to copy and paste the 3-bar verse pattern to the next 2 verses. I start by selecting the 3-bar pattern, copying that and the verse marker to the clipboard by pressing alternate Ctrl+C. Then clicking OK. Next I position the now time where I want the first paste to take place. That's 4 bars after the chorus start. I call up the paste special box by pressing alternate Ctrl+V again. Change the repetitions to 2 and link the repetitions to each other but not to the original. The interval figure is currently showing 4-1. Let's think about this figure for a moment. The copy data is 3 bars long, so why is the interval 4-1? Remember, this figure is where the repetitions would be placed in relation to the start of the previous repetition, so it needs to start on at least the next bar or it will overlap the original. You may even want to do this for some reason, and it's perfectly possible to create overlaps in this way. However, even if we want a copy to start straight after the last one, it will need to be placed at measure 4, beat 1 in relation to the clip, and there's no such thing in Sonar as a bar 0. So a 3-measure clip ends at bar 4, which means that the next paste will happen at measure 13. But we don't want it there. We want to leave a gap between the pastes to allow for the chorus and the pickup fill. The pickup fill is 1 bar and the chorus is another 4 bars, making a total of 5 bars. Therefore, we need to add 5 bars to the interval figure, so let's change the 4 to a 9 and then paste. Remember, to access the box, we need to uncheck Align to Measures. Once that's done, recheck Align to Measures, and as you can see, the interval remains set at 9-1. Now when I click on OK, you can see the verse sections have gone in at the correct places in relation to the pickup fills and still left a gap for the chorus parts to be added. The interval figure can seem confusing at first, but it's quite logical if you think about it. It's normally the length of the copied data plus 1. But as I've shown, we can change that to our advantage. Now let's get back to the Paste Special Options box. The next section lets us control what happens to any existing material. Blend Old and New will just add the inserted material to what is already there. In a new take, if it's audio. Replace Old with New or delete any existing material that already exists within the range that is being pasted to. And Slide over Old to make room does exactly what it says and will push any existing material down the time ruler to the right, effectively creating more measures in the project. Under the What to Paste options, we can specify exactly what is pasted by checking the relevant checkbox. If the option is greyed out, it means it is either not available to paste or not allowed. You can't paste an audio clip into an existing clip, for example. Once your options are set, click on OK. Selections here, with the exception of the interval setting, will remain the default until changed, meaning any future paste will follow them, regardless of whether you open this dialog box first or not. Now let's switch back to the original project. Any object can be deleted by selecting it and pressing delete. There is an option in the Track View menu under the Options section. Select Track Envelopes with Clips. If this is checked, selecting the clip also selects any envelopes, which in turn will affect the result of delete operations. Uncheck this if you only want to delete clips and leave envelopes. For example, if I switch to my bass track, select the clip, press delete, you'll see that the envelope remains. There may well be times when you want to delete a whole area of a project, perhaps at the front where there's some studio chit-chat prior to a take, or perhaps you decide you don't want a verse or chorus section within the song itself. It's possible to delete this hole and have any material to the right move across to butt up to the material on the left. It's advisable to make sure that the snap is on, and also to make sure that snap to nearest zero audio crossing option is set in the snap options. Access those by pressing Shift-N, right-clicking on the snap on-off button, or selecting Edit Preferences Customization Snap. To delete a hole, we press Ctrl-A to select all tracks, and then click drag in a time ruler for the section we wish to remove. I'm going to take out the first verse. Once that's selected, we need to select Edit, Delete Special from the main menu. Then make sure that the options are set as we require. You will need to check that Delete Hole option is checked, and also Shift by Hole measures if that's what you want. Then click on OK. You can see that deletes that whole section. Conversely, there may well be times when you wish to add time to the front of a project, or perhaps insert some measures halfway through. This can be done using the Insert Time Measures command found in the project menu. It's possible to set the insert time from there, but it may be more convenient to set the now time to the insert point before selecting the command. Here is the dialog box. At the top in the @ time box is the current now time, but any time in measure beat tick format can be entered here. This is the time at which you want the time or measures to be inserted. In the insert section, enter the number and type of unit to insert. For example, I'm going to insert 4 bars. And here in the slide section, check each object that you want to slide down the track when adding the time. Want the markers to move, for example? Check that. They will move by exactly the amount of time you add. Leave them unchecked, and they will remain in their original positions on the time ruler. Click on OK. There you can see 4 bars have been inserted.